I watched your Dream Bus interview, but I really resonated with what you were saying compared to what Tim was saying, in that only because that one time I experienced that, I wasn't, when I lost my whole body thing merged with everyone. So it was one big thing. I mean, it wasn't mine anymore, right? And then, but, okay, and that part of the question makes me want to know, now that I'm not don't have that sight in that way, or I wonder what's talking to me, like what's looking out your eyes. I mean, because I had that experience where everything was me, and now I don't have that sight. And so
it's that beingness, it's that essence of beingness.
Yeah.
That beingness it's there right now, Renee. It's the aliveness, and then the aliveness has got these ideas that give the sense that it ends at the end of Renee's body. And the world begins, and it's energetically expresses, it's so strong, that sense. It really gives the appearance, and then as the me drops, that beingness always was everything. And it's beingness right now looking back at each other from different seeming angles. But it's not even angles though, because when the me drops, there's not here and there really anymore. Just the position of the body is talked about as here, which is confusing.
Yeah.
Because everything is in that beingness. It's even more than in, because there's no out. There's just that beingness. And that's the thing. Once there's been an awakening, there's a resonance that happens that's beyond intellectual. And so in that talk, there was a resonance of, it wasn't really listening to the intellectual arguments, because if you did, Tim's makes way more sense. And he's really sweet. I don't mean to belittle anything he says. Like, he really, intellectually, he makes a lot of sense. But there's a knowing of this crazy contradiction of, and it's so strong, this knowing. It's beyond the intellect. It's beyond personal. It's bizarre, really, because it seems as if it appears in a memory, but it's not really the memory that's knowing in these moments. It's something else.
Yeah, and it just is so hard. Like you said, it's so strong that it's like I try so hard with my mind, there are no people, and
it might relax the mind, but it's just playing in the mind game but it's not a problem. It might relax the mind, it might not, it might create more thoughts. We never know really how it's going to go. But it's so convincing whatever the mind says. So the mind says, okay, I'm unhappy because of an external situation, because this person looked at me or said something in a certain way, and that feels like the most realist part of it. Like, that really feels like a reality. And then that energy dissolves, and it's seen that that's not the case at all, that the suffering comes from that idea that I am someone separate from the outside world. It's not from what the world does or doesn't do. But it's so convincing when it starts playing the story. It's because they haven't done the washing up or whatever it is. Maybe it's something more serious, because my house is falling down. I've only just bought it and I want no insurance. And it's going around and around. And it really feels like that's the problem, like 100%. And there might be some form of knowing, okay, hang on, this isn't the problem. But that energy is still strong, like when it's going. And then as it dissolves, the house is still falling down. And then there's just what is again.
Yeah.
But there's still the same situation. But it's so convincing, this storyteller. And it's the energy that's really convincing. It's the two things, the storyteller with the energy.
Yeah. And it seems okay. I mean, it seems like I can ride that wave, even though that shift isn't there, that, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
This is, and I go until, some sort of thing that I guess it's my nervous system, happens. And even so, kind of with Carolyn's question, I mean, things like, I might change my clothes 5 times before I go out or something, and I'm like, is that, that's kind of like trying to impress or whatever, and trying to get it right.
Yeah.
And is that?
But even the other side that's trying not to not do it is another part of the me dynamic. that has an
Yeah.
idea of how it should be, that I shouldn't change my clothes 5 times. It's all playing in a world of you having free will and choice, and you are separate from everything else that's happening. And it's not the changing of the clothes 5 times that happens. That sometimes happens here. Sometimes there's looking in the mirror and there's like, oh no, that's not the right thing. But it's not that that's a problem. It's the one that assumes that it's separate from the clothes, separate from the wardrobe, separate from the light, that's making choices. It's all one movement happening. It's
So
crazy.
I just have to go along with it's. I mean, and then I do things in those kind of nervous whatever. I mean, not that
Yeah.
but throughout the whatever to drink chamomile tea, whatever to calm down. I mean, and those things tend to help to me to stay more.
But they're
I mean,
only helping within the story. They're just helping calm down that energy of anxiety, or that energy of, and there's nothing wrong or right with that. That will be more pleasurable if there's a calming down period. That will be less painful if there's
yeah,
a taking a moment out or just sitting still, more than likely. But it's still not you doing it, and it's that
yeah.
you energy.
It's like this piece in me, because when I had that experience, I mean, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't
Yeah.
putting on clothes; they were just happening. But so that's why it's like I can't believe that I have no choice, in
Yeah.
this, way I'm at, because I don't know, but I it's like I trust you
Yeah.
because I resonate with
Yeah.
what you say because so
But right
and
here, right now, there's speaking happening, there's movement of hands, and there's nobody choosing because it's happening too quickly in that moment. Afterwards, the mind will be like, oh, I shouldn't have said this, I should have said
yes,
that.
right.
And it's crazy. It's just happening, just like the light or the wind.
Yeah, but even the mind saying I shouldn't have said
Yeah,
that,
it's just
and
happening too.
that's just happening
And
too. Yeah.
it can't be stopped. The stopping game is just part of the game. And in a way it's never happening. Although it really feels like it is, it's never really happening because it's always happening in some form of imagery and imagination. So the idea that, about, say, talking about the changing the clothes or whatever, that's just an idea appearing now. An idea that of anything is, I mean, it's all ideas appearing.
Like nothing really happened,
No.
kind of in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. The only thing
Yeah.
that ever is beingness, and in one half of beingness it's not moving at all, and then in another half it's appearing, the images are appearing and everything's appearing. And in the everything's appearing there's ideas of past and future, but it's never ever ever past and future. It's always this beingness which is absolutely silent and still at the same time, and always this dread. This, I was going to say this moment, but this dreaded word moment, because moment, the word moment in spirituality is so controversial. People use it in so many different ways, so everyone stays away from it now. But it's always this. It's always this, and this is absolutely still and everything simultaneously. And there's never been a Renee that was picking out clothes 5 times. There was never a Lisa that said that, even though we both said it. It appeared in this right here. So it's such a craziness, this me dynamic, but it's taken as absolute reality normally.
Yeah.
That's the reality, and it's an abstraction on reality, on what's happening. It's the abstraction. It thinks that what Lisa's talking about is the abstraction. The my mouth's gone funny. Abstraction, but the me dynamic's an abstraction. Am I saying that word right? It sounds really funny when you say it
I
slowly.
get what you're saying. No, I understand the word abstraction, but what do you mean the me dynamic is an
But
abstraction?
so the idea that there's a Renee there
Mm-hmm.
that's been in a spiritual process for how many ever years, or changed her clothes, is a thought appearing in this. It's not a reality.
Well, I want to get that. So it never really happened.
Happens, no. So even you saying so it never really happens, has never happened, is only appearing as an image or a sound or a thought in this present aliveness. Always.
It doesn't. This does. It won't get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
The past and future are always appearing in this. It's never the past or future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
ever.
Yeah, so it's really relaxing again, to just keep. I mean, yeah, just be not. I mean, do nothing. I mean, in a way, because you
But
can't.
doing nothing is still doing something. It's impossible to do nothing. Movement's always happening,
But I
seemingly.
mean, in a different way, meaning trying. I mean, well, I guess I don't know. It's like even talking about it.
Yeah, it comes
I'm
a mind fuck.
yeah, to try and say what I want to say can't come out, you
Yeah.
know. But well, but I am really great. Even I mean, every like someone else was saying, brings peace. To go listen to you,
Yeah.
or to whenever I am having anxiety, to read, teachers and like Anamali Swami. I don't know that guy
Yeah.
that with Ramana Maharshi or something. I don't know like all these. It's I mean, but I'm not doing that. I
No.
guess,
And
and I
it's
don't know.
two sides that's happening, I'd say. There's the side of there's ideas collapsing. So, and that gives a sense of relief because the ideas are a boundedness. The ideas are a boundedness. There's an idea collapsing. What can also happen though is sometimes something can be read and that the reading the ideas, so say something like you can trust life or life is trustworthy, or so these are positive ideas. I tend not to speak in the positive, so I wouldn't tend to say something like life is trustworthy and there's nothing to fear, but I know some spiritual teachers do say that. And when that those are said and there's relief, what's happening is that idea that life isn't trustworthy is being relaxed. So life isn't, and that's not the same as what I talk about. I talk in the negative, it's a collapsing of an idea, but they're giving positive ideas in order to distill the negative ideas or the ideas that life isn't trustworthy, and that's relaxing as well. And it's not wrong or right, but it's just different from the way I'm talking. I'm always talking about the collapse of ideas, and in a
Yeah,
way there is a collapse happening there, but there's a taking on a new belief system, which is then a
exactly.
new belief system. But hey ho, but that both sides can be relaxing, either when the ideas collapse or when the ideas are there's a positive idea that relaxes the idea of insecurity and
Well,
unworthiness.
I can't remember them anyways. The things I read, so
Yeah,
it's
I'm not, and I'm not particularly talking about him or anything, but I was just talking about that dynamic of relaxation. Like there's
yeah.
two sides of that, of when they
Oh, I
collapse
see.
um, and when they're just pacified because the positive idea is being given. Because most people walk around with the sense of not being good enough and a fear
Okay.
that so they feel not good enough to be loved and they feel like they've been rejected in some way. And then also the fear of insecurity, of vulnerability physically. And so hearing the ideas that you aren't um, vulnerable, that you are secure,
Right.
pacifies those ideas.
Yes. Right.
But that's still in idea world, that's still in a conceptual reality, and ultimately what's been talked about is the dropping of both sides, because beingness doesn't need a positive thought in order to be free. It's always free.
Hmm.
It doesn't need a belief system in order to feel better about being. Beingness is always enough. I don't know if I've
So
explained that very well.
yes, yes, I definitely, yeah,
But I'm
I
not
think
meaning to diminish. If there's a sense of wanting to
well,
listen to that, then that's what's happening.
no, but in a way, I feel I'm somewhat addicted to it.
Yeah.
Like my ideal evening is just laying in bed at 7 p.m. reading these books, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't,
And it's
and
not that's not wrong or right. That's what's happening.
yeah,
For
and
some people, that's TV or it's eating chocolate, or and neither's better or worse.
yes, but I see what you just said. It's like at some point I don't, I have to go beyond those,
Yeah,
to see, there's something that I don't even know. It's a fear to, I don't know what it is, and I've been so huge in this, to slow me down, from wanting to keep running. But
yeah. And it all
yeah,
comes back to those two senses, that sense of feeling vulnerable. And it's kind of the same thing, the vulnerable and not good enough for love. They're kind of very similar. They're kind of the same thing. It's basically feeling rejected from oneness. And it goes that when there's that rejection, that me that starts and it feels rejected, it then goes to wanting love
yeah,
and then to avoid that fear of annihilation, of physical pain or death.
yeah. It's almost like in that, yeah, it feels like I just want to cry. a while or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's so crazy, but
yeah. And
I don't
God
know.
knows what's happening. Somebody said to me, "But who's God?" And I mean, when I say God knows, I mean like we don't really understand what's happening, but there's an energy arising out of speaking of sadness, because it is sad, that seeming story of separateness. It
Yeah.
can be a lot of pleasure, but ultimately it's always going to end in tragedy, really, because
Hmm.
nobody really exists. So it's
Well,
it,
thank you again so
thanks,
much.
Renee.
Thank you. Okay,
Much
we'll
love.
talk again. Much love. Bye.